Hello, my friends. Welcome back to another episode of r/I-Do-Work-Here-Lady, where people actually work at places and get mistaken as not. The stories are really entertaining, and I've got a great selection for you today. You'll hear about a woman who claims to know the boss to get free samples, a store owner who's mistaken for a thief, a racist couple getting put in their place, and an intern mistaken as a client. I hope you stay for these stories today, and subscribe for future videos. This one's titled, Rude Lady Caused Her Whole Store to No Longer Get Free Tea. So for background, I work at a high-end mall, a place with outrageously priced loose-leaf tea. I met the owner of the business through my old basketball coach. She's married to an aspiring businessman who got rich because of his smart investments. Well, one of those investments was his tea shop. This will be important later. We sold a variety of the best quality loose-leaf tea from around the world. Although it was mostly just retail, we also made drinks for about $5 to $8 depending on the sizes of the cups. Part of the marketing is going to other stores and offering them free tea. Since we had a lot of leftovers from the samples we used that day, towards the end of the day, we transfer them into cups and give them out for free to neighboring stores. This gave us more customers, and the employees are usually very grateful. Well, except this one rude lady. We'll call her RL. She worked at one of the big stores. She struts in one day and began to complain about how her department never got the free tea. She rambles on and on about how they always get it every Tuesday, and she doesn't understand why it's so hard for us to be consistent. The conversation went like this. The rude lady says, "I know you guys always bring us tea, but we didn't get it today." I replied, "Yeah, those were just a courtesy from the owner. We give it away when we have too much for samples and we don't want it to go to waste." She responds, "I know, so why didn't you bring us teas today? I don't understand why that's so hard to do, it's just tea." "Ma'am, these teas are actually about $12 per 2 ounces. They're not cheap, and we're not allowed to just give it out for free." She then said, "Well, I know the owner. She always gives me free teas. I want to speak to the manager. You seem like you don't know anything. We pay for these teas at the end of the month, and I don't see why you're breaking that contract." She was grasping at straws at this point. I told her, "Actually, I am the manager. I know everything that happens with the store, and we don't sign these types of contracts where people get free tea. We give out free tea as a courtesy, it's not mandatory, and from now on, I think it's in our best interest to no longer give your store free tea." The rude lady realizes she's ruined it for everyone and said, "You can't do that, I know the owner." My old coach was actually in the back at this time since her daughter usually goes to classes and events held at Microsoft. She slides the door open and walks out to look the rude lady in the eyes. The rude lady says, "Finally, a grown-up. Can you tell this kid to stop impersonating a manager and being so rude?" The owner says, "Actually, that's my store manager. You don't know me and I've never seen you in my whole life. I think it's best for you to leave." I later on had to relay what happened to my other coworkers that day, and they couldn't stop laughing. I guess me looking like a teenager doesn't make me look credible to be the manager. That was honestly one of the reasons why we stopped giving out tea for free. People get too demanding. Yikes. Another story where the person claims to know the owner to try to get their way, and I'm glad it backfired on the rude lady. "I know the store owner." "No you don't, crazy lady. I've never seen you in my life." This one's titled, My Employee Didn't Realize That I Was the Owner, So I Married Her. About 7 years ago, when I was about 19 years old, me and 3 of my friends opened up a cell phone store. We basically repair cell phones, sell third-party contracts, and sell accessories like screen protectors and cases. As the business grew, we wanted to expand, so about 4-ish years ago, we opened up a second store on the other side of town. I was the one pushing the opening of the new location, so it was basically my project, so I was at the new location more often than not. After 6 to 8 months of running the new location, business finally stabilized and was standing on its own 2 feet, so I wasn't at the new location 24/7. At one point, one of my partners who ran the older store went on vacation, so we agreed that I would work at the old location a few days a week. While he was gone, the other partner who wasn't on vacation would open up the store in the morning, stay there for a few hours with the employees, and I would arrive later in the day after opening up the other one. When I arrived, one of my partners was on the phone in the back, talking to one of the wholesalers, so I left him to it, and just decided to look around the store, as I haven't been there much over the last few years, and the time I did spend there was mostly 10-second visits for deliveries and such. Here's where the story begins to get good. As I'm looking around, this girl started to watch me. If I walk from one end of the store to the other, she kinda follows me, pretending that she's doing inventory or something. All I thought to myself was, okay, that's kinda weird. She's a new hire, so I never really met her before, but I assumed that she recognized me or something since there's some pictures of me and my partners in the back. So maybe she was just nervous to meet the new boss. I was about to walk up to her and introduce myself when a customer came in looking like he needed help. I approached him and started talking to him, but before I could react, she stopped the conversation with the customer and helped him herself. After he left, she came up to me and said, "I'm sorry, but I'm gonna have to ask you to leave. You don't work here, and you're making me very uncomfortable creeping around, so please get out of my store now." I thought, what the hell? And decided, before I tell her who I was, to see what exactly she thinks is going on. I asked her what she meant, and she said, "I saw when you came in, I'm pretty sure you put something in your pocket." She went on to explain that she's the owner of the place and doesn't want any trouble. She just wants me to leave so there won't be any issues. She was saying all of this around the time my partner got off the phone and he overheard the end of it. I was holding back the biggest grin, and so was he. And then he approached us and explained that I was one of the owners and her boss. Her face turned red and her whole attitude changed instantly. This all happened about 2.5 years ago, and we still joke about it. But now, this 5'4" redheaded girl, who was about to call the cops on me for just looking around my own store, is now my wife. Our first kid, who's due in 3 months, is gonna hear this story for the rest of his life. What an adorable story. I own this store. No, you don't. I'm promoting you to wife. I'm glad things worked out between OP and his employee. This one's titled, Black People Live Here and Work Here. Not sure about this one, but giving it a shot. I worked as a leasing agent for a garden-style apartment community for about 4 months. It wasn't a great property by any means. The apartments were fine, and the amenities were pretty outdated. The point is, we would get all sorts of different people to come in and look around. One day, this young couple comes in looking for an apartment. Very sweet, pleasant, and mannerly. We view a few one-bedrooms, the amenities, and discuss leasing options. We are wrapping up the tour by the door that leads out of the office when the young woman asked one last question. She asked, "So, are there any, black people that live here?" Lots of things immediately started flooding my brain, but in my position, there's only one correct answer. For those that don't know, leasing agents are bound by fair housing laws and cannot answer the question by saying yes or no, as it would be racially discriminatory. I replied, "Anyone that fills out an application and passes our income and background check is allowed to lease here." She became frustrated and said, "Right, I get it, but do you allow black people to live here or not?" As she was saying this, my assistant manager, who's African American and does live on the property, walked into the office by chance on her day off and overheard the young woman ask me if black people live here. Well, my manager just walked out, held out her hand and said, "Yes, they do. Hi, my name's Angela." The couple immediately stammered through damage control and said, I see, we're just..." Cue the super awkward moment, but the icing on the cake. As my manager walked away, under her breath, the young woman asked me, "Your manager approves of this?" I looked at her, then at my manager, then back at the woman and pointed to my manager and said, "She's the manager. You can ask her for yourself if she approves of herself living here." They left without saying another word. My manager and I laughed about it for weeks after. Yikes, that situation must have been super awkward for the couple. This story's titled, Working as an Intern, Got Mistaken for a Client, and Treated Like a Child. This is kind of a short story, but I think it's worth sharing, and it always cracks me up. My last semester of college, I did an internship as a part of my special education degree. The organization I was working for was what's called a sheltered workshop. It's essentially a place for companies to send products to be processed by people with intellectual and developmental disabilities like autism at a reduced wage. The employees, or clients, are monitored and supported by a large staff of barely trained non-disabled employees. I have chronic pain and fatigue, which means that I need to use a mobility aid to get around. I alternated between a rolling walker and a manual wheelchair for most of my time there. I was the only non-client with a disability. I also wore a lanyard with my badge on it, which had my name and university name in big letters. Now sometimes, my lanyard would get turned around so the front couldn't be seen. On many occasions, I'd be doing work on my computer or a notebook while sitting in a common area, and one of the non-disabled employees would strike up a conversation with me or with a group including me. Without fail, they would always address me with the same tone and manner they addressed the clients, while speaking perfectly normal to everyone else around. My personal favorite way of handling that was when they would pull the sugar sweet, "And who are you?" I would reply, "Oh hi, I'm OP, the intern from the university. So nice to meet you. I'm really learning a lot from this experience." The look on their face as it dawns on them that I'm actually an articulate, college-educated person still makes me laugh to this day. It's like you could see the gears turn and the foot get shoved in their mouth. Lesson to be learned: don't treat disabled people like children. Never assume someone's using a wheelchair by default is also intellectually disabled. And I hope you guys enjoyed the stories in this episode. If you aren't subscribed, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications for future videos. Please let me know in the comments below what you thought of these stories, and I'll see you guys in the next one.